Welcome, everybody, back to the next installment of my Laundromat Valuation series. In specifics, the preparation of a business plan to purchase a laundromat. And today I finished the forecasted financial projections section of the laundromat. And this is obviously important. You're in this business to make money, to make revenue, reduce your costs, make good profit. So having a good financial projection is important, especially if you're going to look for financing. And the banks or lenders, they of course want to see that you've done your homework, but they also want to see, is the laundromat going to make money? Uh, so there's a couple of items that I wanted to discuss that I prepared while putting the forecasted financial projection together. And here it is. And in terms of how many pages it is, it's, I believe, 17 pages of just written work. And then I have about 4 different spreadsheets, and we'll cover those in subsequent videos. But as part of preparing the forecast, you do have to make a series of assumptions. And I'm going to cover 2 key assumptions that I made as part of the forecast because we don't know what they are, and we do need to account for them somehow. And those 2 key uh, assumptions, one was inflation, so cost inflation of goods, cost inflation of anything that we need to acquire. Utilities, of course, is a one, uh, and even the rent, the lease. And the next one is that there will be an increase in revenue. So obviously, you're in this business to make money, so your revenues need to be higher than your expenses. So, what do you account for your revenue growth? And that can be a little tricky because you have to decide, how are you going to achieve the revenue growth? Are you going to achieve revenue growth by just increasing prices? Or are you going to achieve revenue growth by also attracting new customers, new clients, and offering additional services? My experience has been that you obviously want to find a laundromat that has room for price growth relatively quickly in your acquisition timeframe, because that'll immediately get you a higher return, but it'll also start to cover your costs better. Um, we'll talk about covering costs and how laundromats are valued for multiples coming up here. As part of the assumptions, I've also included a cost to renovate, and the renovation scale can vary. It can be a substantial renovation or it can be a partial renovation. And when I'm talking about partial renovations, I'm thinking about lighting, maybe flooring, maybe 1 or 2 machines, and maybe paint. Those I would consider minor renovations, maybe a little bit of plumbing. Major renovations would include changing the ceiling, because some ceilings are low ceilings or they have acoustical panels. I like units that are open, so you remove those, paint the ceiling black. It includes additional machines or replacement of older machines, uh, lighting as well, flooring as well, or other leasehold improvements. And just as a reference point, something that I use when I'm calculating what I think this is going to cost for machines, I recently had some pricing done for, I believe it was 10 machines total, no, 14 machines total, and that was about $160,000 before taxes. Okay, and that's in Canadian funds. So that gives you an idea of how much it costs to build out a larger laundromat. The other assumption I made was, if this is going to be a semi-attended or partially attended laundromat with staff, I have to have a fixed number of hours that I assume that they're going to be working. 6 hours, 8 hours, 4 hours over a 31-day month. Obviously, there's some days that have 30, some 31, one 28, but to overestimate and to be ultra conservative, 31 days is a good starting point. And the number of hours that the staff would work is dependent on the kind of laundromat it is, so that's up to you. The other item I kept in my balance sheet or in my estimations was a capital cost reserve. And typically that is a 10 to 15% of profit. It's a reserve that's held back and you don't touch that in your account. And that's for things like uh, the roof may go, the HVAC system may go, or some other large expense. You may have to replace a machine or a few machines. And over time, that capital cost reserve or CCR builds up and it's just kept in your account for rainy day. Also, assumptions on laundromat pricing. And this is one where it gets very tricky because there's a lot of variables that can influence how a laundromat is valued for sale. Often, what you'll see is a multiple of annual profit, and that multiple is typically between 3 and 5. So it's a 3 times multiple of annual profit or a 5 times annual multiple of profit, and it's anywhere in between there. Now, the things that affect that number, that multiple, include things like the location of the laundromat, the age of the machines, the lease remaining, that's a big one, the condition of the store generally, and of course the profit or the revenue and the customer base. So all these things affect the multiple. So as part of the assumption that I made in my forecast is I'm going to use a 5x multiple for any laundromat or the laundromat that I'm analyzing as a function of its profit. Now, once you go into due diligence, you can then confirm that the numbers reported are actually working out, and does that multiple make sense? Are the machines 25 years old or are they 5 years old? That affects the multiple. And then there's a bit of negotiation that has to take place there. Okay. That's a summary of the assumptions that I made as part of the financial forecast in evaluating the profitability and return of investment on a laundromat, a fictitious laundromat in this case. I'm using a broad set of numbers to establish a study point to take and apply against the specific laundromat that I'm looking at until I get more numbers. So I hope that's helpful. And if you have any questions, put them down in the comments. Would love to chat about them. Thanks.